Hey, would you like fries with that? You know, it's an interesting thing that whether we realize it or not, we are all familiar with one of the greatest sales pitches of all time. The basic point of sale upsell that is called, would you like fries with that? Today I want to talk about how you ask for the sale. And believe it or not, it's going to be the last thing I ask you to think about today, because I'm going to send you home with some homework. Welcome to episode 9 of the Cheeky Sales Coach, Asking for the Sale. I got my money goggles on because we're talking about money in a very obvious way today. We're talking about how you ask somebody else to give you their money, because at the end of the day, it's the single most important question in sales. How do you ask for the money? A lot of people will talk about this as a closing, and we'll get into closings another time. So today I want to talk about 6 or 7 things that are very central to making a sale. Thing number 1 is you have to do it whether you want to or not. I know, it's hard to be a grown-up because one of the problems with being a grown-up is that sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, right? Sometimes you don't want to do the laundry, you don't want to mow the lawn, you don't want to make a video, you don't want to write a blog, you don't want to ask for the sale. Not sure what the mental block is there that some people don't want to ask for the sale, but thing number 1 is you don't have any choice. You have to ask for the sale, because here's what happens if you don't. If you don't ask for the sale, nobody has to answer your question because there's no question, right? So think about this. When you come to the end of your presentation, you come to the end of your sales process, what do you do? And a lot of you will say, well, I don't know. I do it different every time. That's not true. When people say they do something different every time, it only means they haven't really thought about what they do so that they can write it down so they can practice it. Thing number 2 is you have to build a habit. So we're going to talk about how you go about building that habit. Let me tell you a story. My daughter, when she was a teenager, used to work at an office supply store. And every week they would have a contest to see who could sell the most pens. So at the checkout counter, there was always one selected pen of the week that was on sale for $1 per pen. And so she would win all the time. Sometimes she didn't even work a full 30 hours, or she wasn't always at the register, but every week she won. And I asked her how she did that. And she said, it's really simple. You simply get in the habit of asking every single client when they walk up, would you like to buy one of our special pens for $1? And the answer is very frequently no, but it's very frequently yes. And every single person who didn't make a habit of it was not in the running to win that contest. So the habit of asking for the sale can be built into your sales process no matter what you sell. You could be selling something that's $200,000, but at the end of the day, you will make more sales if you finish your process by asking for that sale. Now, when I was a kid, I sold newspapers. I got my start in sales by being a paper boy and knocking on doors and telling people all the benefits of getting the daily newspaper and all the money they could save with coupons and how they would never have to worry about being up to spec on the news. Back in the day, newspapers were super cheap, like and it eventually became $4 a month for 7-day delivery. So it's not clear to me why anybody would say no to that. But I found value in it. I believed in my product. And so I learned to knock on doors and tell people all about it. But I didn't make sales until I learned to actually ask, so can I sign you up? There's probably 10,000 different ways that you can actually ask for a sale. but it needs to be a question where the answer is either yes or no. There are no other answers to whether or not you want to make a purchase, right? Yes or no. Now, people can put you off and wait and delay and all kinds of other stuff, but eventually the answer is either yes or no. Thing number 3, decide how natural you want to be. At some level, you may not be comfortable asking people for money. That's cool. But remember, rule number 1, you have to do it. Right? So you don't necessarily even have to be comfortable with it. It can be an unnatural thing. Now, let's go back to fries. When you're at the checkout counter at McDonald's and they say, would you like fries with that? It's a very easy, natural thing. It's easy to remember. It's easy to repeat. And it's going to result in some sales, right? I have a somewhat unnatural way of asking for the sale. I usually finish trying to sell IT services by having a contract that I literally slide across the table, and then I say, if you can just sign here, we could get started today. I would love to have you as a customer. And so I'm asking somebody to sign a piece of paper. It's not like, hey, I'd love to have your business. Do we get the money? Which may sound more natural to some people. It would be very unnatural for me. But it's something that I know is awkward. And so for me, it is a way to officially bring my presentation to a close and ask for that sale. It is to say, if you'll just sign here, we can get started right away. And after I do that a dozen times, 100 times, 1,000 times, it becomes my habit of how I ask for the sale. So you have to figure out how natural you want to be. Now, to be very honest, do you want fries with that? Would you like to add a pen for $1? Those are easy, natural things because there's not much money on the line. If you're signing a deal that's going to be worth $10, $20, $30, $50,000, well, you might choose to have something that's a little more formal. You might say something like, we would love to have you as our clients. Will you please sign here? Yeah, again, you have to decide what the wording is. And, you know, as weird as it sounds, if you really think you don't know what your process is, stick a digital recorder in your pocket or turn on the recorder on your phone and record your sales process, simply so that you can figure out what happens. Because here's what happens too often. If you don't have a process, you might find that you mumble and you stumble and you don't really ask for the sale and you don't really show a level of confidence. And if you say, well, you know, you wouldn't really want to have us fix your stuff, would you? Oh, the answer is going to be, no, not really at all. But, you know, thanks for asking. Become knowledgeable about what you actually say and then work to consciously choose what it is that you say. Number 4, make it important. Make it important to yourself. Make it important to the client. Here's what I mean by that. For you to actually remember to go through your process, to slow down, to say specific words in a specific order, and make perhaps even certain hand gestures slide contract across the table, it has to be important to you. You have to understand deep in yourself that this is the thing that gets you the sale. Asking for the sale. Think about this. Many people, when they vote, they have a list of people on the ballot that they don't know. They're like, this is a nonpartisan race, so I don't have a party I can count on, and I don't really know any of these people, and it's for some office. I don't really understand what the office is or what it does, and there are 7 names on the ballot, but this one woman knocked on my door and asked me for my vote. And so that's who they vote for. Believe it or not, it is important to people that you ask for their money. And so it has to be important to you to remember to ask for their money. People are not in the habit of giving away money for no good reason. Whether that's personal, B2C, or whether that's business, B2B. People don't give money to businesses just for fun. Well, very rarely. It does happen. But it has to be important enough for them to give you the money. And that means it has to be important enough for you to ask for that money. So take it very seriously. Go slow, analyze your process, and determine how you want to ask people for their money. And tip number 5, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Here's the thing. Once you ask somebody for their money, there's going to be a potentially uncomfortable silence. That's okay. It's amazing how much silence makes people uncomfortable. So use that in your favor. And it literally takes a tiny bit of practice and a lot of willpower when you're starting out. Whether you slide that contract across the table as I do, or simply ask somebody, so with that, I would like to ask you for your business. And then shut up. It is an awkward silence at first, but you were the last one who spoke. It is their turn. If you don't ask for the sale and you don't leave a moment of silence, the most natural thing to happen is for the prospect to say, well, thanks for coming in, scoot you out the door, have a nice day, I will see you later. But if you ask for a sale and then shut up, the most natural thing is for them to say yes, no, or go into a series of excuses of how, I have to think about it and I got to talk to my partner and we got to vote with the board and blah, blah, blah. But they'll answer you. And if they don't want to answer you, that silence puts it on them to be the next one to speak. You have asked them a question and then you've shut up. And now it's time for them to speak. Finally, number 6 is an old song of mine. Nothing happens by itself. You have to create this process. I honestly want you to put down in the notes below. I want you to put in the comments, whether you're listening to this on the podcast at cheekysalescoach.com or on YouTube in the video. I want to see in the comments how you close. How do you ask for the sale in your business? And if you don't know, that's okay. Put on there, let me make a sales call and I'll get back to you. I want you to think about it consciously and remember you have to create this process intentionally. As with every other piece of your business and every other piece of your sales process, the way that you ask for a sale will emerge and it may not necessarily be the best way for you. And so you need to craft it over time, determine what works best, determine what is most successful, and then bake that into the system so that you can have a way that you ask for a sale. When you have your way of asking for a sale, send me a note. I'd love to hear what it is. For CheekySalesCoach.com, this is Karl Palachuk wishing you the absolute best of luck in everything you do. Call to action. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss a thing.